Hi.
Hello.
My name is Miranda. I'm the registered dietitian that will be meeting with you today.
My name is Chelsea.
Hi, very nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you.
So how was your weekend?
It was pretty eventful. I had to go see my grandma in the hospital.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is everything okay?
Hopefully she'll pull through, but we won't know until Monday.
Oh, well, I will keep her in my prayers. So how was your Thanksgiving this past couple weeks?
It was pretty good. I loved visiting my family and all the meals, of course.
Yeah, definitely. You get to take home a lot of leftovers, that's for sure.
I'm the first one in line to get leftovers.
Me too. I have leftovers for weeks. So that's the best part about Thanksgiving, in my opinion.
No cooking the rest of the week.
Yes, exactly. So, if you don't mind me asking, what brings you in here today?
Well, my sister was concerned, considering like the past medical issues I have, and she wanted me to come see a dietitian.
Okay. I did actually get some information from your physician. They sent over some information for me. And it looks like you may have had your gallbladder taken out. Is that correct?
Yes, I had it removed.
Okay. About how long ago was this?
I was pretty sure 14, so 5 years ago.
5 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And have you been experiencing a lot of problems since then?
Yes, but nothing like when I had my gallbladder, so I live with it.
Okay.
But I do have problems.
Okay, so I really admired the fact that you have actually chosen to come in today and discuss more with me about ways to kind of improve your diet and improve the symptoms that you're feeling. So to start off, I want to just talk about a little bit about what maybe your physician has told you so far about what's kind of going on. Has he said anything to you?
No, not really. After I had my gallbladder taken out, I just kind of, was done with the whole doctor scene, and I really didn't go back in for my checkups and stuff like that. I was just hoping that, that would be the end of it. Because when I did have my gallbladder, I didn't have gallstones or anything. My gallbladder was actually dead.
Oh, okay.
When your gallbladder stops functioning under 80%, they're supposed to take it out. Mine was functioning at 8%.
Oh, wow.
It had set up a nutrition disorder, and I was basically laying on my deathbed for like 10 days before they even found out what was wrong with it.
Oh, wow. So I can definitely understand why you didn't want to kind of deal with that immediately after and following that whole process. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. Well, what I want to talk with you a little bit about today is just kind of explain the disease, gallbladder disease, kind of explain a little bit about what happens and maybe kind of give you a little insight as to what is going on with your body now. And what we can do moving forward is talk about different diet choices to make sure that your symptoms are lower, and that way you can avoid those pesky doctor visits as much as possible. So what I have here for you is a handout that I've made, and it just describes a little bit about the disease. If you look right here, you can see your gallbladder is right under your liver, and what they would do in your case, they went in and just kind of took it out and sort of sewed it up, and you no longer have that sac. In the gallbladder, it actually holds bile. So bile is made from your cholesterol, which is from the foods that you eat, and it'll hold that, and once it kind of gets full, it'll move along the tract to sort of digest the fats that you eat.
In my understanding, it's like a good filter for greasy foods.
Yes. So it really helps to break down those foods. And so in your situation, you no longer have your gallbladder, so it's kind of hard as far as eating fatty foods. That process, it doesn't get digested. So I don't know if you've noticed or not, but once you eat fatty foods, it can kind of hurt your stomach or the abdominal area, and that's because it can't break those down as efficiently. But interestingly enough, your body over time will start to form a small sac to sort of simulate what a gallbladder would do.
I did not know that.
But in this case, it's still going to be a lot smaller. So that's why it's best to always stick with the regimen of small, frequent meals. Does any of this make sense so far?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And so
it explains it a little bit more in depth than what I was aware of. So.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that I can bring to light a little bit of this for you. And down here at the bottom, I have a little bit of, it says diagnosis, treatment, and then lifestyle changes. And so for you, you were diagnosed with the 8%, as you mentioned before, and then you had surgery to remove it.
Yes.
And then the next step in that process is your lifestyle changes. And so what most people will see is they will be recommended to increase physical activity, and then the more diet changes, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth here in a second. And so along with the paperwork that you sent me earlier, you did do what's called a 24-hour recall. And if you don't mind, I would like to go over a little bit of that real quick. Is that okay?
Yes.
So let's see. So I just want to go over this and just make sure that this is what you may be eating a typical day, and then we can move forward from there. So it says that for breakfast, looks like around 8 a.m. you have...
I had Mountain Dew, and I accidentally skipped the time right here, so I wrote down 8 a.m. again. And I had biscuit and gravy.
Okay.
At a restaurant. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And it looks like you have maybe 1 biscuit and 1 cup of gravy with that. Okay. And then I see where you put 12 ounces for the drink. And then, does this look about right for the next one from 11 to 11:30?
Yeah.
Your lunch? Okay. And then, let's see here, from 12, so... Okay.
12 to 3, it was just a time period of me drinking, like, a lot of water.
Okay. That is great. Water is definitely something that I enjoy drinking, and I always love to put either fruit to infuse it with some fruit. My favorite is oranges. It tastes absolutely amazing, or those little packets.
I usually just fill up, like, one of those Yeti cups.
Okay.
Yeah, with iced water, like, from the refrigerator.
Yes, there
I
is
really
nothing
don't like
better.
water.
Me neither. There's nothing better than iced water, in my opinion. Okay, and then it looks like for dinner you had 2 slices of pizza. Could you maybe describe for me with your hands how the size of the pizza?
About like that.
Okay. Okay. And then it goes on to say you had some broccoli, some steamed broccoli, which that's great. That's actually one of my favorite vegetables is steamed broccoli. And some applesauce and some more water. That's perfect. Alright. So you would say that all of this is pretty spot on for a typical day for you?
Yeah. I'm more of a snacker than a meal person, so.
Okay. And that actually works out really great with the fact that you do not have your gallbladder, because you're consuming smaller meals at a time. And so that is actually perfect, because we don't want to overload your stomach, and then
when I overload, that's when I have like diarrhea, really bad abdominal pain.
Okay. Okay. Well, now that we've looked at that, I'm going to go back to this handout real quick. So what I have on here is some do's and don'ts. We try not to say avoid all of these foods, because it's kind of a little scary, and so what I want to stick more towards is all of the foods that you can eat, because there's tons of foods that you can. So what I have here is, like we've talked about, consume the small and frequent meals. Consume lower fat meals, because as I mentioned before, the bile is made from cholesterol, which is more fatty, and when you consume low fat meals, you're not kind of overloading it, and so it's processing it slower. And then high fiber foods, some potassium rich foods, and then seeds and nuts, which are rich in omega-3s, and that can help with any inflammation within your GI tract, or relating to the gallbladder.
Yes, I've also noticed that since I have had my gallbladder taken out, it doesn't matter if I have had a big meal or a small meal, or if I've had fatty or not fatty, greasy or not greasy, I always have like tenderness in my stomach.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can talk about some foods that you particularly like, that we can maybe manage well within your diet to kind of lessen those symptoms. So abdominal distension is not fun, and I know it's very painful, so we will try to help you out the best that I can. And then we ended up with, we want to consume lean protein, which is going to be your chicken, fish, and kind of staying away from the red meats, which is more of beef. And then I only have 3 don'ts, and that is try not to consume foods that are fried, because those are going to be more fatty foods.
Well, the only way I like my chicken is fried.
Well, we can definitely work in some ways to kind of, because we don't want you to completely quit cold turkey whatsoever, because that's not the best way to kind of make sure that you're efficient with things. So what we want to do is maybe lessen it, and then maybe slowly over time we can work in other ways, but we will not be cutting that out completely. And then we also want to stay away from simple carbohydrates, which is simple sugars like sodas, added sugars, things of that nature. And then we want to stay away from high fatty foods. So does any of this make sense so far?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So what I would like to do now is maybe sort of talk about some goals that you would have toward lifestyle changes and diet changes in the future. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring over a little notepad for you to write those down, and we can save them and send them to your cell phone. That way it's easy for you to access.
Okay.
And that way you can keep it with you. Alright. Okay. So you can do whatever you would like here. You can do bullet points like this, little boxes, whatever you would like, whatever feels comfortable for you.
Okay.
Alright. So I'm going to hand this over to you.
Okay.
So, with everything that we've talked so far, do you have any questions about anything before we start making your goals?
No. I probably will need a little bit of help on your end.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's perfect. So, so earlier we discussed some things like the smaller consumption of fatty foods and things like that. What do you think would be a good goal as far as your diet or lifestyle changes would be?
Okay. I've got it to where it's diet first.
Okay.
And the bulletins will be the diet, and then the lifestyle will be stars.
Okay.
All right. Diet would be less fried chicken.
Okay, that's a great one to start with.
Okay. Cut back on my Mountain Dew habit.
Okay, and in doing that, you're also cutting back in the simple carbohydrates, the simple sugars. So that is also a really great goal.
Maybe instead of just finding things around the house to snack on, I could start planning meals.
Okay.
So I will know if it, like, to expect my stomach to be hurting or not.
Okay.
Plan. Maybe try more foods that I never really thought that I would like.
Okay. Maybe you could try to set a goal for 1 or 2 new fruits a week, or maybe try 1 new fruit per week. Does that sound attainable for you?
Yes, I love fruit. I also love vegetables too, but also know that there are some vegetables that I haven't tried. Kind of like snarled my nose at them and was like, ew, no.
There's definitely, for our future visits, we can discuss more meal planning options and different ways to prepare your foods, and that can also relieve a lot of stress or anxiety you may have about kind of preparing those meals. But typically, what would you say, on a scale of 1 to 10, from 1 being least likely and 10 being most likely, how confident in yourself would you say you feel about making those, preparing those meals?
pretty confident. I don't think that I'm a bad cook, and if I am a bad cook, my boyfriend, he's like the chef of the house. So.
Okay, well, it's amazing that you have a great support system at home to assist you with any of these lifestyle changes that you're going to make.
Okay, now we can talk about lifestyle.
Okay.
I can plan an exercise routine every day. Like,
okay.
Hold on, we'll say the next one. Plan, whatever. Yeah, okay. And then I can also switch up my exercises.
Okay. And then for the last goal, let's make something a little bit more quantitative.
Mm-hmm.
So say you'll do one thing a certain amount of times per week. Do you like doing yoga?
I love yoga, yes.
Okay. So that would be something, I know a couple of my friends have started doing this thing. It's called sunrise yoga, and they absolutely love it. I have not tried it so far, but that may be something that you could be interested in since you do love yoga.
Would you get it on an app or something?
There are tons of apps, and there's actually some YouTube videos, and so we've set up some really great goals so far. I think you're really set on what you would like to do and what you would like to see changes in. But before we wrap up, I just want to kind of make sure that you, if you have any questions, that I can answer any questions for you and sort of relieve any stress that you may have.
Well, I only have one question for you, and then
Okay.
I'll be out of your hair. Sometimes I like to eat out at McDonald's, and I was just wondering if there was any suggestions or advice you could give me.
Okay. So what I like to think of whenever you are possibly going to be eating out is maybe ahead of time look at their menu and see kind of what their options are. We know that in your situation you would handle and tolerate it better if you consume lower fat meals. So we can look at things like salads with chicken in them. That's a really great option. So
But
any
grilled chicken.
any grilled chicken salad. You could even look at maybe, I know some places are starting to offer fish with their meals if you like fish. You do not like fish?
I do not, unless it's crab meat.
Okay, well, that's probably only going to be found in a fancy restaurant, I assume.
Yes. Not at McDonald's, most definitely not.
It's that crab meat is actually, it would be wonderful for you to consume if you do have that option whenever you do go out to eat. But for something that's more fast food, I would just recommend looking at that menu ahead of time and looking at their different lean protein options. So we know lean protein would be your chicken, and then of course your fish, and other poultry items like turkey, and seeing what they have as far as that offers. And just to keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to cut out everything. It's just better and your stomach can tolerate it more if you consume it in smaller amounts. So maybe
don't cut it all out, but cut it down.
Yes. So maybe if you do have to stop and you're, craving a burger, just eat smaller portions of that burger, and that way it won't kind of overload your stomach and your digestive tract all at once. So that would be one of my recommendations for that. Do you have any other questions regarding?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. So just to wrap up and kind of recap what we've talked about, so we did discuss, some of the things with your gallbladder being removed, and ways to, thank you,
You're welcome.
Ways to sort of lessen your symptoms, and I think you are pretty positive as far as what you want to change and how you're going to go about doing that, and I feel like you've got a pretty good head on your shoulders as far as what you want to do, and so
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's perfect, and it's really great to see someone have so much drive and want to strive for their health to be better.
Well, it's good to talk to a dietitian that is also so positive.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I just want to make sure that, you can be feeling the best that you can be, in that way, your quality of life is improved. And so with that, I just want one last time to ask if you have any other questions.
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I loved talking with you and getting to know you a little bit more. And I am looking forward to our next meeting and hope that the recommendations and goals that we have set today really propel you as far as your diet goes. And hopefully you'll be able to see some positive improvements. So thank you so much for meeting with me.
Thank you for seeing me.